He was just a boy, barefoot, hungry, invisible to the world. Every morning, while the city woke up to the smell of coffee and the rush of cars, he stood at the corner of a dusty street, holding a small box of chewing gums. His hands were tiny, but his eyes carried a weight far beyond his years. "One gum for a goin," he whispered, hoping anyone would stop. But no one ever did. They passed him like air, like a shadow that didn't matter. Some laughed, others turned away. Yet every night, he went home to a small shack made of tin and cardboard, where silence screamed louder than hunger. There were nights when he cried quietly, covering his mouth so his little sister wouldn't wake. She believed he was strong, that her big brother could face anything, but only he knew the truth he was breaking. Slowly, one empty stomach at a time. One day, after being pushed away by a man who didn't want to be bothered, he sat down on the sidewalk and stared at the sky. "Why me?" he whispered. "Why was I born here, like this?" But there was no answer, just the sound of the wind and the smell of dust. Then, an old man stopped, not to buy gum, but to look at him. "You remind me of myself," the man said softly. "When I was your age, I had nothing, but I learned something. Life won't always give you what you ask for, but it will give you a chance to fight for it." He handed the boy a coin, not as charity, but as a promise. "Use this to start something, even if it's small." That night, for the first time, the boy didn't cry. He held that coin in his hand like it was made of hope. Days turned into weeks, and the boy started selling more. He smiled, greeted people differently, not begging but believing. Each rejection hurt less, because now he wasn't just selling gum. He was building something invisible, a dream. He didn't know how or when, but deep down he felt it. "One day, they'll remember my name." Still, the road was cruel. There were days of rain where he stood drenched for hours. Days when his sister fainted from hunger. Nights when his mother coughed so hard that fear filled every corner of their home. Yet he never stopped. Each coin, each no, each tear became a brick in the foundation of something greater. Years passé, and the boy became a teenager. He still sold gum, but his eyes had changed. There was fire in them now. He began reading discarded newspapers he found in the trash, teaching himself words he didn't understand, repeating them aloud until they made sense. Motivation, success, education, words that became his prayer. One afternoon, while selling near a school, he saw children his age wearing clean uniforms, laughing, carrying books. Something inside him burned. One day, he promised himself, "I'll wear one of those uniforms, not because someone gave it to me, but because I earned it." Every day after selling, he stood outside that same school, listening through the windows to lessons he couldn't attend. The teachers never saw him, but he heard every word. Math, history, science. It was as if knowledge was calling his name. And so, with a notebook he found in the trash, he began writing what he heard. Slowly, painfully, he started teaching himself to read and write. Then one day, everything changed. His sister fell ill. The little girl who once believed he was a hero now lay weak in his arms. The doctor said she needed medicine, expensive medicine. He ran through the streets, knocking on doors, begging for help, selling everything he had. He even gave up his gum box, but it wasn't enough. That night, as he sat by her bed, holding her hand, she whispered, "One day, you'll be someone right." He smiled through his tears. "I promise." When she took her last breath, the boy's world shattered. The next morning, he buried his pain deep inside. He went back to the same corner, but not to sell. He stood there with empty hands, looking up at the sky again. "I'll make it," he whispered. "For her." That was the day he stopped surviving and started becoming. He began working odd jobs, cleaning, carrying boxers, washing cars, anything to earn enough to go to school. And every night, after hours of exhaustion, he studied by candlelight. Sometimes, his eyes burned from lack of sleep, but he refused to stop. He repeated to himself, "If pain made me strong, knowledge will make me free." And slowly, the impossible began to happen. For years, he fought against the current. Every sunrise brought a new challenge. Every night, a battle with his own doubts. He worked during the day, studied at night, and dreamed only when exhaustion finally defeated him. His shoes were torn, his hands calloused, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. Sometimes, people would laugh when they saw him reading an old, crumpled book on the sidewalk. "Why waste your time?" they said. "You were born poor. You'll die poor." But he didn't answer at them. He had learned something far more powerful than angry. He had learned silence. Because silence was his secret weapon. Silence allowed him to listen, to observe, to grow. One day, he was cleaning the floor of a cafe when a group of university students walked in. They talked about business, about dreams, about changing the world. He listened carefully, pretending to mop nearby, catching every word. "You just need an idea," one of them said. He repeated it over and over, until it became a flame in his chest. He started experimenting with small things. Using old wrappers and recycled paper, he created colorful crafts to sell instead of gum. People began to notice. "Hey, that's creative," some said. For the first time, his work didn't just earn coins, it earned respect. And that respect was worth more than gold. Every compliment became fuel. Every small success was a spark that kept him alive. But the road was still full of pain. There were nights he fell asleep in the street, using a cardboard box as a pillow. There were mornings when he woke up sick, hungry, trembling from the cold. Yet, even then, he whispered, "Not yet. I can't give up yet." He remembered his sister's eyes, her voice, her promise. She was gone, but her faith lived in him. It was as if every step forward was guided by her invisible hand. Years later, after saving every cent, he finally enrolled in night school. He was older than the other students, dressed in worn-out clothes, with a notebook full of pages that looked like they'd survived a storm. But when the teacher asked, "Why are you here?" he answered without hesitation, "Because I want to change my story." The class went silent. Everyone turned to look at him, and in that moment, he realized something powerful. People might pity you, laugh at you, even ignore you. But if you speak from your soul, they will listen. From that day forward, he became unstoppable. He devoured books like they were food. He studied with a hunger no classroom had ever seen. Sometimes, he worked 2 jobs and slept only 3 hours. But the more exhausted he was, the more alive he felt, because finally, every drop of sweat had a purpose. There was one night when the power went out in his small neighborhood. The whole block went dark, but he refused to stop studying. He lit a candle, then another, then another. Neighbors watched him through their windows, that small flickering light reflected in his eyes. He sat on the floor, surrounded by darkness, whispering equations and reading lines out loud. "You can't see the light," he said to himself, "if you don't first survive the dark." And the universe, somehow, seemed to hear him. Months later, his teacher called him after class. "There's a scholarship program," she said, "for students who show potential but have no means. You should apply." He hesitated. "I'm just the gum boy," he said shyly. She smiled. "Maybe you were, but not anymore." He filled out the forms with shaking hands, not believing he had a chance. Weeks passed in silence, until one morning, a letter arrived. He held it as if it were a piece of his destiny. Slowly, he opened it. Tears fell before he even finished reading. He had been accepted. The boy who once begged for coins on the street was going to study at a real school. He ran to the small hill where he and his sister used to play. He looked at the sky and whispered, "We did it." For a moment the wind felt warm, almost like an embrace. At school, everything was harder. The lessons, the schedules, the expectations. Everyone seemed smarter, richer, more confident. He felt like an intruder, a stranger among those born into comfort. But every time doubt crept in, he remembered where he came from. He remembered the faces of the people who ignored him, the hunger, the cold nights, the laughter of those who didn't believe. And instead of breaking him, It fooled him. He studied harder than anyone. He stayed in the library until it closed, took notes on napkins, wrote formulas on his hands when he had no paper. Professors began to notice him not because of his past, but because of his brilliance. One afternoon, a professor asked him to share his story. The classroom went silent as he spoke. He didn't dramatize it. He didn't try to make anyone feel pity. He just told the truth. When he finished, there were tears in everyone's eyes. Even the professor had to look away. That moment changed everything. People started inviting him to speak to younger students, to community groups, to others who felt lost. At first, he hesitated. Who am I to inspire anyone? He thought. But every time he told his story, he saw something beautiful happen. Faces lit up. Hearts opened. People who were about to give up found strength again. One evening, after giving a small talk at a community center, an old woman approached him. Her hands trembled as she held his. "My grandson wanted to drop out of school," she said softly. "He saw your talk on the internet. Now he wants to finish his studies. You gave him hope." He didn't know what to say. Ehust smiled, and when she walked away, he cried. Not out of sadness, but out of disbelief. The same boy who once begged for attention was now helping others believe in themselves. His story began to spread online. Someone recorded one of his speeches and posted it. Overnight, it went viral. Millions watched. People from different countries sent him messages, thanking him for reminding them that life could change. The boy who sold gum on the streets had become a symbol of resilience. But fame didn't change him. It humbled him, because deep down, he knew that his real purpose wasn't to be known, it was to serve. He started volunteering in poor communities, building small libraries with donated books, teaching kids how to dream again. He told them, "Dreaming is free. Fighting for your dream is what makes it priceless." And while his name began appearing in newspapers, he never forgot the corner where everything began. Sometimes, he would go back quietly, stand there, and watch other children selling candy. He would buy from them, smile, and whisper, "Don't give up." They didn't know who he was. They didn't have to. One day, a journalist asked him, "What's the secret to your success?" He thought for a moment, then said, "Pain. Pain taught me everything. It taught me to listen, to fight, to never take life for granted. Pain made me strong. But love gave me purpose." As years went by, he graduated with honors. The same boy who learned to read by listening through classroom windows was now walking across a stage in front of thousands, receiving a diploma that symbolized every tear, every scar, every night of hunger. He looked into the crowd, searching for the faces that once doubted him, but instead saw strangers cheering, clapping, crying. And in that moment, he realized that success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. After the ceremony, he stood outside alone, looking up at the same sky he once begged under. "We did it," he whispered again. "But we're not done yet." Because destiny wasn't finished with him. The boy who once survived on crumbs was about to change lives with words. He began receiving invitations from universities first, local, then national, then international. "Come, share your story," they said. "Tell them how you made it." He didn't have fancy clothes. He didn't speak with polished words, but he had something far more powerful. Truth. Standing before crowds of students who had never known hunger, he told them what it felt like to fight for one more day. He told them about nights in the rain, about selling gum while dreaming of classrooms, about losing everything, yet still refusing to give up. "Success," he said. ISNT. About how high you climb it. S about how many times you rise after falling. Applause thundered through the hall. But what he cherished most wasn't the noise, it was the silence that followed. The kind of silence that meant hearts were moved. From that day forward, his life changed forever. But he remained grounded, humble, and grateful. Because he knew that behind every triumph was 1,000 invisible battles. He wasn't just a story anymore. He had become a voice for those still fighting in the dark. He had come so far. The boy who once had nothing now stood on stages where thousands listened in silence. The same child who had begged for coins was now giving others the wealth of hope. But inside him, something still burned, a quiet voice that whispered, "You're not done yet." Fame had never been his dream. What he wanted was meaning. He didn't want statues, or followers, or wealth. He wanted every kid sitting in the dark to know that the dark wasn't the end. One night, after giving a speech in another city, he walked alone through the streets. The lights of the skyline glowed above him, tall towers piercing the clouds like symbols of human ambition. Yet, Ekulden stopped thinking about one question. Why me? Why had life chosen him to endure so much pain, only to rise from it? Why had he survived when so many others hadn't? He sat on a bench, watching the rain fall. Every drop that hit the pavement echoed like a heartbeat. He closed his eyes and saw everything again: the alleys, the cold nights, his sister's smile, the hunger, the candlelight. The images flooded his mind like a storm. And then, in that quiet moment, he heard her voice, clear as day. "You made it, little brother. But now it's time to make sure others make it too." He opened his eyes, tears streaming down his face. He finally understood. He hadn't survived for himself. He had survived for everyone, still fighting to believe. From that night on, his mission changed. He began building something bigger than speeches. He created a foundation, one that provided education, shelter, and hope to children who lived in the same streets that once held him hostage. He called it the Second Sunrise. He sold everything he owned to start it, every award, every trophy, every luxury that success had brought. Him gone. People called him crazy. But he smiled and said, "I was crazy enough to believe I could change my life. Now I'm crazy enough to believe I can change theirs." The foundation grew faster than anyone expected. Volunteers joined. Companies donated. Schools partnered. The media tried to label him the miracle man, the gum boy who built empires, the street child who saved thousands. But none of those names mattered to him. He just wanted to be someone's reason not to give up. Years passed. The foundation reached cities across the country, then continents. He traveled the world, not as a celebrity, but as a messenger. In remote villages, in refugee camps, in places forgotten by time, he told his story. And every time, people cried, not because his story was sad, but because it made them remember their own strength. He became a light for those drowning in darkness. But light always comes with a shadow. As success grew, so did the pressure. Endless work, sleepless nights, the constant demand to be strong for others. One night, exhausted, he collapsed backstage minutes before his speech. Doctors said his body had been pushed beyond its limits and needed rest. Lying in a hospital bed, he stared at the ceiling. Machines beeped softly beside him. For the first time in years, he felt weak again. He thought of quitting, of disappearing, of resting forever. But then, a nurse entered the room. She was young, but barely 20. Her eyes were full of tears. "You probably don't remember me," she said, voice trembling. "When I was 12, you came to my school. You told us that even broken wings can still fly. I wanted to end my life that day. But your words, te saber me. I became a nurse because of you, Abra Kadun." He cried like that same little boy years ago, helpless, but grateful. Because in that instant, he realized something profound. You never know who's watching you. You never know whose life your pain might be healing. That night, he promised himself, "I will never stop." Months later, he returned to the stage, stronger than ever. His hair was grayer, his eyes deeper, his presence even more powerful. The audience stood in silence as he took the microphone. "I once believed success was about escaping pain," he began. "Now I know it's about transforming it. Every scar you carry is a doorway to someone else's healing. Don't hide it. Don't be ashamed. Show it to the world, because that's how light gets in." The crowd erupted in applause, but he raised his hand gently to silence them. "Don't clap for me," he said. "Clap for yourselves for surviving everything the world thought would destroy you." That moment became legendary. The video of that speech spread across every platform on Earth. Within days, Billions of views. People shared it in every language, quoting his words like scripture, but he didn't chase the numbers. He chased hearts. He began mentoring young dreamers, kids from war zones, slums, and shelters. He listened to their fears, wiped their tears, and told them what he wished someone had told him. You are not a mistake. You are the proof that even pain can give birth to miracles. As the years passed, he started to age. His hair turned silver. His voice grew slower, but never weaker. The foundation had become a global movement. Streets, schools, and hospitals bore his name, but he never took credit. He said, "These aren't mine. They belong to the dream." And one day, when he least expected it, he was invited back to the very same city where his story began. He stood once again at the same corner where he used to sell gum, the same broken walls, the same sidewalk cracks. But now, children were there playing, laughing, safe. No hunger, no fear. One of them ran up to him, holding a small box of candy. "Do you want one, sir?" the child asked innocently. He smiled. "No, son," he said softly, "but I used to sell them too." The boy looked confused. "Really?" "Yes," he said, kneeling down to eye level. "But you don't have to." At that moment, he knew the circle was complete. He walked away slowly, tears in his eyes, and for the first time in his life, he felt peace. But destiny wasn't done writing his story. A few months later, he was invited to speak at a global summit. Leaders from around the world gathered to hear him. Cameras, lights, applause. Yet when he stepped up to the podium, he said something no one expected. "I have nothing left to teach," he began, "because everything I ever learned came from the pain I tried to escape." He paused. The room was silent. If I could speak to the boy I once was, I'd tell him thank you. Thank you for not giving up when no one believed. Thank you for crying, for falling, for trying again. You are the reason I exist. The crowd was already in tears. But then he added, "Life isn't about finding yourself. It's about remembering who you were before the world made you forget." A thunder of applause filled the hall. Some say they never heard words so raw, so human, so divine. After that night, he disappeared from the public eye. No announcements, no farewell, just silence. People searched for him. Journalists speculated, but he was gone. Months later, a letter surfaced online. It was handwritten, Sined Ba'im. It read, "If you are reading this, it means I've finally gone home. But don't cry, for me I didn't die. I became the light that once saved me. Whenever you feel broken, look at the sky. I'll be there, in every sunrise that dares to rise after the darkest night. Remember this. You are never too small to matter. You are never too late. To begin, you are never alone in your pain. Now go and become someone's reason to keep believing." The world mourned him as if it had lost a saint, but in truth, he was never gone. His message lived in every heart that had ever heard his name. Millions began to follow his path, volunteering, helping, healing. His foundation tripled in size. His story became a film, a book, a symbol of what it means to rise from ashes. And somewhere, on that same street corner, a new generation of children sold candy not out of despair, but out of joy. Because now, there were schools, shelters, and futures waiting for them. Some nights, the people said they could still see him, there a man in simple clothes, standing under the streetlight, smiling softly, as if watching over the place where it all began. Whether real or imagination, it didn't matter. What mattered was the legacy he left behind. A legacy not of wealth, but of awakening. Because in the end, he had proven something eternal, that no darkness is too deep for light to return. That no pain is wasted when it's turned into purpose. That one soul broken and forgotten can rise and ignite the hearts of billions. And as the narrator's voice fades, the screen turns black, showing his final words. The boy who sold gum never became rich. He became immortal.